Vera retorted, "Madam, are you saying that I overstepped my authority? I'm merely a maid, inspecting the food is only natural." She continued bluntly, "Up until now, the maids have not been doing their proper duties. Don't you, madam, realize there's nothing wrong with my work?" Vera's words startled her. Observing her reaction, Vera noticed that she was deep in thought. Suddenly, she realized, this scrutinizing attitude is very suspicious. Vera looked directly at her and stated, "Since the management of internal affairs falls under Princess Kaina's authority, does that mean you intend to obstruct the princess?" She silently concluded, "They are all opponents of the princess. I had anticipated this, but I didn't expect them to act so hastily." Calmly, she continued, "Not long ago, Princess Kaina fell seriously ill due to a nut allergy." Those words gradually changed her expression. A slight smirk appeared at the corner of her mouth. Vera then said, "For now, I will inspect the dishes presented to the princess." Unyielding, the other retorted, "Are you implying that the head chef prepared the food without knowing what he was doing?" With her arms crossed in a cold, fearless gaze, she declared, "The allergy incident was caused by a maid who mistakenly brought a cake with nuts. On closer examination, it wasn't the kitchen's fault but rather that the palace maid should be held accountable. Don't you agree?" After speaking, she smiled maliciously and mocked, "The princess only selects 4 maids. I always thought they must be exceptionally skilled. It turns out that Her Highness only chooses ordinary ones, doesn't she?" Furious, Vera's face flushed red. Overcome with indignation, she slammed her hand on the table, thinking, "How can Princess Kaina remain so calm every time she is insulted? Even now, I cannot hold back." Bowing her head onto her arm as if to steady herself, Vera whispered, "If I'm not more alert and strong, I'll always be looked down upon." She recalled the scene outside the palace and reminded herself, living in the palace, one must have value to survive. Otherwise, you'll be easily discarded. The image of Princess Kaina with her golden hair and graceful demeanor flashed through Vera's mind. She thought, "My only salvation is to become indispensable to Her Highness." Tensing as she calculated, Vera mused, "The head chef and Madame Helia act as an iron shield protecting the main kitchen. There must be something suspicious there, I need to investigate." Tapping her fingers lightly on the table, she considered, "But it's hard to do this alone. I need someone to help me." Suddenly, her gaze fixed on the door as it opened. Olivia stepped in and said, "Oh, I didn't know anyone was here." Vera observed Olivia and thought to herself, a wise, quick, competent, and composed person. Not hearing any answer, Olivia asked, "What's wrong?" Vera fell into a pensive silence, thinking, "Someone like that." Then she whispered to Olivia, "So, if she asks what I would do, then." Upon hearing this, Olivia's eyes widened in shock. She was at a loss for words before suddenly exclaiming, "Huh!" The two quickly changed into another set of maid uniforms. Olivia smiled lightly and asked, "Hey Vera, are you all right?" Vera replied confidently, "I'm fine, Lady Olivia. I just need to catch the head chef's attention." Olivia nodded. "That's all thanks to you." With a stern look, Vera said, "Surely, the storeroom of the main kitchen is hiding something. No matter how expensive the ingredients are, it is unreasonable for him to keep checking them over and over. Moreover, whenever another maid visits the kitchen, the head chef always angrily shouts and kicks them out, which makes Vera even more suspicious." Olivia stammered, "So, what do you think?" Vera decisively declared, "Exactly. Clearly, the head chef is embezzling and pocketing the funds." At that moment, a sigh echoed through the kitchen. "Ha!" The head chef, holding a spending list, mumbled, "Gee, we earned so little this month, didn't we?" Then he grumbled, "Ha! Although earning a little is better than being exposed, that Madame Helia. Even if I bribe her to keep quiet, I just can't trust her." He murmured, "Next time, I should order a bit more." Suddenly, a voice called out, "Excuse me, may I ask you something?" Olivia replied cheerfully, "I need to go to the princess's palace, but I got lost. I'm sorry, could you please show me the way? She appeared a bit shy and rather endearing. The head chef thought to himself. Is she a new maid at the princess's palace? He paused. Perhaps she's not the type of meddlesome maid like the one before. He had been nervously puffed up all this time, fearing that the records of his embezzlement would be exposed. But at that moment, he paid no attention to Vera, who was secretly standing behind him, making a mocking face. Suddenly, he stroked his chin and thought. Hold on. She looks so well behaved, definitely not like that previous maid. He scanned her, evaluating. Beautiful face, graceful figure, and polite speech. She must be a lady from a noble family. Then his expression suddenly turned menacing. Let's see, if I speak sweetly and coax her. He burst into loud laughter. Ha ha. Ah, that's right, this route is indeed rather complicated, isn't it? Where do you plan to go? What's your name? While he was busy chatting with Olivia, Vera managed to find what she needed. Excellent, she thought to herself. Softly, she mentally whispered, Thank you, Lady Olivia. Suddenly, she froze when she saw the head chef clinging to Olivia's shoulder. In a raised voice, he asked. How is your work going? Are you having any difficulties? If you please me, you may dine and reside here. Olivia stood motionless, startled. A little panic trembled in her voice as she stammered. I'm fine. The head chef sneered and continued. Don't you also want to be regarded as a noble lady, rather than just a maid doing trivial work? If you become the head chef's wife in this palace, wherever you go, you will be recognized as a lady. He looked at Olivia with an appraising gaze and added. You're quite beautiful, which is why I hold you in special regard. Vera saw the scene before her and immediately became furious, shouting. Lady Olivia! She sprang to her feet and yelled loudly. What do you think you're doing? The head chef flinched upon seeing Vera. He stammered. No. As you can see, I was just. But then he stopped abruptly, as if realizing something. His eyes darkened as he stared at Vera. She's the maid from the princess's palace that I kicked out before. Seeing that he recognized her, Vera was momentarily startled. The head chef suddenly burst into loud laughter. What a rare coincidence. He stepped closer, pointing a finger in Vera's face and shouting. This one comes into the kitchen more often than her own home. And now she's rummaging through the storage room too. Do you think this place is under the princess's jurisdiction? Vera frowned, sensing that the situation was becoming chaotic. Her hands clenched tightly around her dress, trembling. But she couldn't just let this go. Because of her, Lady Olivia had been humiliated. Vera bit her lip, her thoughts racing. I've already searched through the storage room anyway. Maybe this is a good thing. Perhaps. Her Highness the Princess has placed her trust in me. I must repay that trust. If I want to do that, I have to be useful to the princess. Suddenly, murmurs spread through the area. A few curious onlookers began gathering. The head chef, now furious, shouted. So, the two of you sneaked into the storage room on purpose, didn't you? He took a threatening step forward. Do you even know where you are? Is this how the princess trains her maids? A bystander quickly tried to calm him down. Chef, please, calm down. The head chef shoved the person aside with a huff. Get off me. He swallowed hard, fear creeping into his heart. If I let them off too easily now, they might sneak in again. These wenches must know something. That's why they're doing this. His eyes narrowed in calculation. I have to intimidate them so they won't dare return. If my embezzlement of ingredients is exposed, I'm done for. With that thought, he raised his hand, ready to strike the two girls. But at that moment, a strong hand suddenly stopped him. The head chef's eyes widened in shock. Kaina smirked coldly, her gaze razor-sharp. For some reason, I had a strange feeling, she said. Vera opened her eyes in surprise, while Olivia was still trembling, clutching tightly onto her shoulder. Kaina Hill straightened her back, her voice steady and firm. That's why I hurried here. She smiled slightly, locking eyes with the chef. It seems I was right to do so, wasn't I? She spoke slowly. Because my people were about to be harmed. The head chef paled, exclaiming in panic, damn it. Why is the princess suddenly here? Standing beside her, Vera hesitated before asking, Your Highness, how did you even know about this place? Kaina maintained her smile, her gaze unwavering. Vera, what are the foods I cannot eat? She suddenly asked. Vera blinked at the unexpected question but quickly answered. Why do you ask that all of a sudden? Let me think. You cannot eat anything made from peanuts or tree nuts, as well as any seafood with a strong smell, raw fish. Hearing her answer, Kaina nodded in satisfaction. As expected, Vera knows me very well. She paused briefly before continuing. But, how strange. The maids who served me today only brought me dishes made of fish. A few hours earlier, at the princess's palace. There was a sharp knock on the door. Kaina Hill turned her head to see two people approaching. She furrowed her brows, her cold gaze sweeping over them. I've never seen you in the princess's palace before. The two of them chuckled as they spoke. Oh, Your Highness. The princess's palace was short on staff, so we were assigned here to ensure you are well taken care of. The head lady specifically entrusted us with your service. As they spoke, they grinned broadly. Kaina Hill remained expressionless, but a cold glint flickered in her eyes. Humph. Those self-important women really look down on me, don't they? It seems they only answer to Rajef. And here they are, already trying to establish dominance over me. Not a hint of fear in their eyes. One of the two spoke up. Today, the main kitchen received fresh fish, so they prepared a grilled dish. The look of disdain and scorn deep within their eyes made Kaina Hill feel as if they saw this princess as nothing more than a fool. She calmly closed her book and coldly said, If you're done, leave now. The two maids sneered. Oh dear, but we were ordered to assist her high. Before they could finish their sentence, a loud crash echoed through the room. Kaina's eyes widened as she sternly declared. So, you dare disrespect me and ignore the words of the princess? I told you to get out. Did you not hear me? Only then did the two maids panic, scrambling to leave in a flurry. Princess, we apologize. At that moment, another maid cautiously peeked into the room and whispered. Your Highness, at the main kitchen right now. Lady Olivia and Lady Vera. Kaina pondered. The palace's main kitchen? Could it be because of that? It's happening faster than I expected, but that's fine. It's time for me to step in. She stood up and commanded. Take me to the main kitchen. At the main kitchen, Kaina spoke icily. I wondered who was behind the repeated attempts to serve me food containing nuts, seafood, and other things I cannot eat. So, I had Vera personally keep watch over the kitchen. But I hear you kept driving her out. Tell me, did you knowingly prepare seafood, something I cannot consume, and have it sent to the princess's palace? Was this all you're doing? The head chef, flustered at the accusation, hurriedly explained. Your Highness, that's simply not true. This must be a misunderstanding. I was merely concerned for your maid's safety. The kitchen is filled with smoke, fire, and sharp knives, so I acted out of concern. Please understand, I was only trying to prevent accidents from happening. Moreover, the ones who delivered the food to your palace today were maids under Madame Hell's command. The distribution of food is not my responsibility, it falls under Madame Hell's authority. Kaina Hill listened and then asked. So, you're saying you knew nothing about this? Ah, yes. That's right, Your Highness. I'm already overwhelmed with managing just the kitchen. Even working all day isn't enough, because the most strictly regulated place in the entire royal palace is right here, the main kitchen. The head chef puffed up his chest with pride. I have been the head chef of the royal palace for many years. Kaina Hill scoffed. Is that so? You speak with such confidence that I find myself even more curious. Vera, go and summon Madame Helia. Vera whispered to her, "Your Highness, I apologize. I believe they're hiding something, but I haven't been able to uncover it yet." Hyena Hill replied in a hushed tone, "It's fine." Leaning in closer, she whispered into Vera's ear, "I already knew. Just trust me." Hearing this, Vera nodded and respectfully bowed. Then, "Please excuse me, Your Highness." Before leaving, Vera glanced at Her Highness and thought to herself, has Her Highness always known about what's happening in the kitchen? The matter is still under suspicion, so I haven't reported it to the princess yet. But she doesn't seem interested in investigating it either. How did she find out, after all? Hyena Hill smiled and said, "While waiting for Vera and Lady Helia to arrive, may I take a look around? Didn't you say the kitchen is a model example for all the other departments?" The head chef immediately put on a servile smile and responded, "Yes, of course. Your Highness, please feel free to inspect as you wish." He thought to himself, it seems this princess has gained some internal authority, making her quite bold. What a useless princess. No matter how much she looks around, what could she possibly uncover? Hyena Hill walked leisurely, observing her surroundings. The head chef quickly introduced, "This way leads to the ingredients prepared for tonight's dinner." Hyena Hill seemed to notice something and chuckled, "Aha." As expected of the main royal kitchen, even the freshness of the ingredients is managed down to the smallest detail. The head chef hastily responded, "Thank you for your praise, Your Highness." She reached out her hand, but he quickly stepped forward to stop her. "Your Highness, is something the matter?" Hyena Hill thought, they've already cleaned up the evidence this thoroughly? That won't do. I need to catch them red-handed, with concrete proof at the scene. But, there's no need to rush. This is only the beginning. She smiled gently. "Oh, it's nothing. The ingredients look so fresh that I just wanted a closer look. For tonight's dinner, I suppose I should place my trust and expectations in your kitchen, shouldn't I?" The head chef immediately replied, "Phew, what a relief, Your Highness. I won't allow any mistakes to happen again. Please trust me and leave it to me. I will ensure to demonstrate my full capabilities." He thought to himself, I was worried about being exposed. Turns out I was just being paranoid. Why are they inspecting so thoroughly and making people nervous? But wait, what if there's a sudden inspection? I've been reporting large quantities of food in the kitchen and receiving an enormous budget. In reality, the food crates only have a layer of ingredients on top, while the bottom is filled with rocks. Lady Helia was in charge of inspections and supervision. Thanks to her help, he could continue siphoning off the budget. After all, the royal family only ate expensive dishes and never cared about the kitchen's affairs. And as for food waste, he could simply justify it as necessary to ensure freshness. The head chef looked at the man in front of him with suspicion. "Why are you showing me this method?" The man tapped his fingers on the table and slowly replied, "Because we share the same interests. As the head chef of the royal palace, you must be well aware of everything, aren't you? Don't you want enough wealth to stop envying the nobility? All you have to do is report simple things to me, what Princess Hyena does, where she goes, what she eats, and what she can't eat. That's all." The head chef hesitated before asking, "If that's all, then it's not difficult. But what exactly are you planning, Lord Heinrich?" Heinrich smirked wickedly. "The more of my people I have in the palace, the better. Information is power and strength." The head chef frowned, scratched his head, and grumbled, "But do I have to cooperate with Lady Helia? That woman is difficult to deal with." Heinrich scoffed. "Do you think the palace only has 1 or 2 maids? If you want to avoid the eyes of countless attendants, you need to join hands with the head lady in waiting. Besides, isn't she Prince Rajeff's confidant? She is the most suitable person to oversee things on his behalf." Before leaving, Heinrich placed something on the table and pushed it toward the head chef. "Take this." He laughed slyly. "It will be quite useful to you." Back in the present, the head chef remained nervous and trembling. Damn it, at least I removed the rocks in time. The royal family has never cared about this kitchen before. Suddenly, a servant rushed over, bowed, and reported, "Head chef, the food supplier has arrived. Should I send them away?" The head chef jolted in shock, immediately thinking of the new shipment. The crate still had rocks at the bottom, just like before. No! If the princess inspects these crates, there will be a disaster. Damn it, why now? He spun around and shouted, "How could you allow lowly merchants to appear before the princess? Tell them to leave immediately, hurry!" But Kaina simply smiled and said, "It's all right. We cannot turn away those who have traveled such a long way to deliver goods. Let them in. I would like to personally thank them for their hard work." The sound of hooves clattered as the supply carts approached. The merchant driving the cart found it strange. Why is the royal kitchen so noisy today? Normally, only the head chef is allowed unrestricted access. Why is it so crowded? He thought to himself, I need to deliver quickly and leave to make my next stop. Suddenly, a clear voice rang out. "Oh, the merchants have arrived?" Kaina beamed, speaking softly. "So you are the supplier responsible for delivering ingredients to the royal kitchen." Upon seeing her, the merchant was stunned. "A goddess?" Someone beside him whispered urgently, "Quickly bow to her highness." Snapping out of his daze, he hurriedly bowed, his voice trembling. "This humble servant greets your highness." Kaina spoke gently, "Rise. Though these ingredients are for our meals, I have never paid attention to the effort behind them. I want to express my gratitude for your hard work in bringing them here. So, let me see the ingredients." The merchant smiled happily and replied, "Yes, your highness." "Of course." He stepped forward eagerly to open the crate, but then hesitated. "Oh no! Right, the crates contain rocks." He shot a nervous glance at the head chef. According to the head chef, the princess was ignorant. Was she asking to inspect out of suspicion, or was this just a whim? Suddenly, Kaina spoke again. "Wait. Show me the purchase invoice." The merchant hesitated and glanced at the head chef, who immediately grabbed him and pulled him aside. The merchant whispered anxiously, "What do we do? We don't have anything like an invoice." The head chef scowled and muttered under his breath, "Don't you know how to lie? Just say you forgot to bring it." Taking his cue, the merchant quickly turned back and bowed to the princess. "I was in a hurry today and forgot to bring the invoice, your highness. In fact, we have been supplying the palace for a long time, and this is our usual practice." The head chef quickly chimed in with a laugh. "Ah, your highness, merchants often do business this way. They gather invoices over multiple transactions and submit them all at once. It builds mutual trust." In his mind, he sneered, what would this paper princess even know? Regardless, as soon as the evidence surfaced, he had erased all traces. Later, even if someone wanted to verify it, the documents had already been destroyed. A few simple invoices, so long as they matched the records, would never be discovered. Suddenly, Kaina burst into laughter. Her laughter echoed through the hall, stirring whispers and murmurs among the onlookers. Why is the princess laughing like that? But just as quickly, her smile turned cold. Trusting invoices as proof? Just how much do they think they can underestimate me? Did those fools truly believe they could deceive her with mere flattery? They even carried themselves with such confidence, showing not the slightest concern that their lies might be exposed. Bam! The teacup slammed forcefully onto the table. Kaina's presence flared, her voice ringing sharp and commanding. "It seems I've been far too lenient with you all." The grand hall fell into utter silence. From the time she had been the crown prince's consort to her rise as empress, she had learned to adapt, step by step. This position was not something a naive princess could simply toy with. A nearby maid curled her lip in disdain, whispering mockingly, "I heard the princess only picked 3 young maids who know nothing. How stupid can she be?" Another chimed in. "Do those maids really know nothing, though?" Lady Helia then spoke slowly, her voice calm yet laced with meaning. "If His Highness the Prince returns, everything will return to the way it was." Vera stood before Lady Helia, her tone icy. "Lady Helia, Her Highness the Princess is looking for you. Helia scoffed in disdain. The princess's tone truly needs some proper schooling. Causing trouble for the kitchen with such willfulness, if only she could be more like His Highness. Vera chuckled coldly. Oh? From what I see, the princess is quite sharp and intelligent, Lady Helia. Moreover, even if temporarily, she is still the head of the inner palace. Is she not the one overseeing the affairs within and outside the palace? Hearing this, Helia sneered inwardly. Ha! Just because she holds a single key, she thinks she's important? Once Prince Reef returns, he'll take it all back. But why is she suddenly calling for me? Why the kitchen of all places? Damn it, has that idiot head chef been exposed? If the secret's out, I'll just feign ignorance and cut ties with the kitchen. I won't let myself be dragged down by those fools. Her hand clenched unconsciously. But just as she was about to take a step, she froze, her mouth falling open. Her eyes widened in shock. What? What is this? Lady Helia stood dumbfounded, her voice rising in panic as she saw all of her people captured. What is the meaning of this? She turned to Kaina, demanding. Your Highness. What is going on here? My goodness, why is the kitchen in such chaos? Kaina cast her a leisurely glance, speaking in an indifferent tone. Ah, you're here, Helia. Perfect timing, we're in the middle of inspecting the delivery wagons. The head chef collapsed to his knees, shouting. Your Highness. You have no right to treat me this way. I was personally chosen by Prince Reef. Kaina stepped forward and struck him hard across the face. A head chef daring to lay hands on the royal treasury? She withdrew her hand and stated coldly. Do you now even dare to look down on the royal family itself? Kaina turned to the guards and commanded. Guards! Arrest everyone involved and throw them into the dungeon. Lady Helia gritted her teeth, contemplating, she's acting so arrogant just because she temporarily obtained the title of inner consort? I must take this opportunity to put her in her place. She stepped forward and asked. Your Highness, why are you conducting an inspection without prior notice? Doesn't this imply that you distrust your loyal subjects? Kaina smirked. Oh ho, is that so? What you're saying makes sense. You, my dear Chamberlain, are truly a model of virtue, pointing out things I hadn't considered. Lady Helia lowered her head in a show of loyalty. Of course, Your Highness. All of us have sworn unwavering loyalty to the royal family. I can only be grateful that you understand my devotion. Yet inside, she sneered coldly. Humph. I still have the ability to turn the tables on her. The fact that she ransacked the kitchen was unexpected. But in a way, it's good. Those who don't know when to stop will eventually be caught. Straightening her back, she wore a benevolent smile while firming her resolve. I cannot let my honor be tarnished just because of an association with the head chef. I am the shining example of the royal court, as I have always been. Kaina chuckled behind her hand. My dear Chamberlain, you certainly have a good eye. Helia stiffened, her eyes widening in shock. What do you mean by that? Kaina stepped closer, speaking slowly. Her gaze swept over the jewelry adorning Lady Helia. If that's not the case, then your taste is quite peculiar, isn't it? Where did all these pieces come from? Proudly, Helia boasted. These are gifts I received, all with official certificates. Kaina cast a sidelong glance, inwardly scoffing at her stupidity before speaking. Do you even know where these jewels originated from? That brooch belongs to House Liam, the family that betrayed the royal family and was purged. Those jade earrings? From the Marina Royal House, destroyed years ago for waging an invasion. And that ruby ring? A relic of House P, the ones who once plotted to assassinate the royal family. My, how interesting. The Chamberlain, of all people, is adorned with the jewelry of traitors? Helia stood frozen in shock. What? Kaina flicked her hair back, speaking nonchalantly. It seems the seeds of rebellion are spreading throughout the royal capital. She gave a slight nod, issuing her command. Arrest this traitor immediately. Helia collapsed to her knees, her voice trembling. Why, you're calling me a traitor? No. Your Highness, I have served the royal court with unwavering loyalty for years. Kaina leaned down, her voice eerily calm. Indeed, Helia. I know you have devoted yourself to the palace. If your loyalty is being questioned, you must be feeling terribly wronged. She let a necklace slip through her fingers, her tone gentle yet filled with authority. Here's what I'll do, I shall conduct a thorough investigation to clear your name. Then she ordered. Search the entire H household, including her maiden family. Do not overlook a single trace of treason. This is a royal decree. In another chamber, anxious voices rang out. Please punish us, Your Highness. Two maids knelt, their voices filled with remorse. Due to our ignorance, we implicated Your Highness and Lady Olivia. It was our own reckless actions, please punish us as well. Kaina lifted her teacup, taking a sip before replying. While your attentiveness and observational skills are remarkable, today you were too rash. You should have informed me first. She fixed them with a serious gaze. Confronting fools head-on can lead to bigger problems. I don't want anything to happen to you too. Walking closer, her voice softened but carried deep meaning. But hasn't the outcome proven you were right? Those people are criminals, they committed a grave offense, daring to meddle with the royal treasury. She bent down and embraced the two maids, her voice both gentle and full of implication. Well done. Vera sniffled, her body trembling. Startled, Kaina asked. Why are you crying? Then, with a change of tone, she inquired. Vera, what's the situation with the Emperor? What did you report to him? Vera recalled the scene earlier, the figure lying in bed who had said, take care of the princess. She relayed this to Kaina. He has been informed of everything. His Majesty ordered me to check on Your Highness, assuming you would be quite busy. Kaina smiled. Thanks to her efforts in rectifying the treasury and safeguarding royal assets, the Emperor supported her actions. This meant she no longer had to worry about backlash from the noble factions. As she walked through the palace corridors, she fell into deep thought. She needed to consider what kind of reward she should request. At the same time, she had to anticipate Rejeff's reaction. Another troubling matter, those so-called official certificates that Helia had were actually forgeries, fabricated by the black market. An ordinary person wouldn't be able to distinguish jewelry from traitorous families. Clearly, someone had planned to eliminate Helia from the start. And there was only one person capable of orchestrating something like this, Grand Duke Heinrich. Heinrich controlled the entire black market underworld. The head chamberlain and even the head chef were just a fraction of the pawns he had placed within the palace. His network of spies was vast. Kaina felt exhausted. The enemies she had to deal with kept multiplying. Heinrich was a formidable foe. Without a doubt, he would be a headache to handle. At Kidray Manor, evening. A cloaked figure silently walked along the stone-paved path and stopped in front of a door. After looking around cautiously, Innie quickly pulled a hidden cord on the wall. A secret door opened, revealing a dark passageway. The figure stepped inside, holding a torch, and removed their hood. Innie knelt and reported. There is urgent news from the palace, young Master Kidray. Rafalo ordered. Rise. Sit down. Bowing respectfully, Innie replied. Thank you, young master. Rafalo rested his chin on his hand, deep in thought. Initially, he had only planted spies in the princess's palace as a precaution. However, at some point, information from there had started flooding in like emergency reports. He asked. What's the matter? Speak. Even though she had been striving to live differently, restraining her emotions and acting with more rationality, if there was one thing that remained unchanged, it was the villainess's instinct within her. Innie responded. Yes, young master. It's about the royal kitchen. Rafalo tapped his fingers on the table. A royal decree? He pondered. The matter of Grey entering the palace, the confiscation and investigation of the head maid's assets due to her involvement in the head chef's embezzlement. The Emperor actually approved Kaina's actions in this. One question kept swirling in his mind: how could the princess have access to such information? For her, disrupting his plans must be trivial. He continued. Besides that, is there anything else of significance? He thought for a moment and then said. Recently, the princess has been reading travel guides of various regions. She mentioned that she was looking into summer resorts. Rafalo was startled. It seems you've received far more rewards than I was aware of. Travel guides? He recalled the time he saw Kaina in the library. Was she searching for travel books back then? He pressed further. And what about the former royal nanny? He replied. There has been no response yet. Rafalo leaned back in his chair, crossing his legs as he contemplated. If Baroness Elon were to return to the palace, she could take over as the new head maid. It seemed he would have to place spies in that position as well to gather intelligence. He spoke again. One more thing. Last night, the prince went to the princess's residence. Rafalo narrowed his eyes. The prince is still under house arrest, isn't he? He nodded. Yes. It appears there is a secret tunnel in the prince's chamber. There was a loud noise coming from inside last night. Rafalo clenched his teeth. What could have caused such a commotion? No, something was off. The prince clearly loathed Kaina. Why would he seek her out? But strangely, there were no rumors about it spreading. The prince had also remained silent. Even though I don't know what happened, it seems Kaina has managed to persuade him. Rafalo leaned back in his chair, feeling exhausted. The number of matters requiring his attention just kept increasing. His eyes gleamed sharply. Princess Kaina, every action of yours shakes the world. Noticing Ini's hesitant expression, he asked. Why do you look like that? If you have something to say, then say it. Ini closed his eyes and hesitantly replied. Why yes. I overheard something. The princess hopes that you and Lady Grey will become a couple. Rafalo trembled with anger, his hand shaking as his voice turned chilling. Baston. Baston flinched, responding nervously. Why yes, young master. Rafalo's eyes burned with murderous intent as he demanded. What's the most natural way for me to meet the princess? Baston was horrified, thinking to himself, why are you asking me that? Meanwhile, at the castle, a voice rang out. Prince Reef, please reconsider. He asked. What is it? Reno replied. Are you planning to recruit Catherine Lindbergh? Catherine is extremely dangerous. Reef nonchalantly said. Is that all? I'm merely registering her as the adopted daughter of Count Hamel. This trip wasn't as unpleasant as I thought. Renan countered. You are creating a new competitor. Do you think power remains static? Reef slammed the book on the table and shouted. Your words make it sound as if all the power I have built over the years will crumble because of Catherine's son. Renan's tone turned grave. When Catherine becomes queen, her son will be the rightful heir, more legitimate than anyone else. Your Highness relies on the conservative nobles, and you know full well how dangerous this is. Reef's face twisted in rage. He hurled the book straight at Renan's face. That beggar's child? Legitimate? No matter how much the Lindberghs meddle, I will ascend the throne before long. He glared at Renan and roared. Get out of my sight immediately. Renan stormed out, cursing under his breath. That bastard. Reef reopened his book, lost in thought. What exactly is my sister's wish? Freedom? He suddenly spoke. Jamil, are you there? A masked figure dropped from the ceiling. Yes, Your Highness. Reef ordered. Spread Princess Kaina's portraits across the empire. Display them on every street and harbor. Let even the most remote lands know her face. Jamil bowed. As you command. Reef sneered. Then the only thing left is marriage. He whispered. Sister Kaina, I have never permitted you to escape from me. His voice echoed in the dimly lit chamber. Once the portraits were revealed, Kaina's ability to flee would be greatly restricted. Marriage would be the only path left. Jamil knelt and reported. Your Highness, I have urgent news. Rajef asked. What is it? Jamil replied. The princess. Her Highness is punishing the entire Internal Affairs Department. Rajef stiffened. What did you say? Jamil continued. Not only the head chef and head maid, who are linked to your faction, but many others in the palace are being penalized. If this continues. Rajef instantly grasped the situation. His voice darkened. She's undermining my influence, isn't she? He furrowed his brows, deep in thought. It seems she's recalling Clarence Elon. With the head maid position vacant, Elon will undoubtedly take it. Rajef ground his teeth. That wretched woman. Always interfering, preventing Kaina and me from being together. I had her falsely accused and exiled. And now she dares return. He pressed a finger to his lips, his eyes cold. She will surely use underhanded tactics to drive a wedge between me and Kaina once more. Rajef ordered Jamil. Jamil, take care of this discreetly. Clarence Elon must never set foot in the capital. A blade gleamed in the dim light. Jamil bowed. As you command. At the castle, amidst the chaos. The palace was bustling with activity, servants hurrying back and forth. A voice rang out. Oh my, what is going on here? Julia looked around before whispering. The palace seems quite chaotic, doesn't it? Susan replied stiffly. Something must have happened. Julia glanced at Susan, a thought flickering in her mind. Scary. That stern face, that rigid tone. She's beautiful, but nowhere near as stunning as me. I am the top beauty of the East. Recalling the moment she was chosen as the princess's lady-in-waiting, Julia still felt elated. She had clung to the steward's hand, repeatedly asking, Is this real? Really? When she received confirmation, she had abandoned everything, leaving behind the ugly men of the East, to rush toward the dazzling capital. Ah, the tea parties, the elegant balls, the extravagant gowns. Thinking of it all, she felt overwhelmed with joy. Now, she too would experience the splendid life of the capital's nobility. A voice cut through the thoughts. Miss Susan Lepon, Miss Julia even. Julia turned towards the source of the voice. A girl bowed deeply. I am Vera Rayon, the princess's maid. You will both work with me from now on. Julia thought for a moment, is this Vera Rayon? Vera continued. Please follow me, I will guide you. Julia recalled that Vera was the only maid who had been recognized for her abilities and the only one who stayed by the princess's side. Despite her cold expression and lack of a smile, she carried an undeniable aura of authority. Julia felt a pang of sadness. Do I really have to work with someone like this? Vera continued. Miss Susan's room is this way. Miss Julia, your room is next door. That room is for Miss Olivia, who just arrived yesterday. Julia was surprised. Miss Olivia just arrived? She thought to herself, she doesn't come from a powerful family, so is she trying to make an impression with her looks? According to secret investigations, this is the first time I've heard of that noble family. I've heard rumors that she comes from a poor, powerless noble family and will marry Duke Kidray in the future. Julia smiled faintly. Let's forget about that. I've heard Duke Kidray is quite the handsome man. A voice interrupted. You two will be meeting the princess now. Vera turned and instructed. Once you're ready, please call for me. I hope you won't keep everyone waiting too long, the princess is very busy. The two replied. Yes, we understand. Julia lay on the bed, complaining. I thought we would be treated warmly with just 4 maids. What is this? The maid beside her comforted her. Well, miss, at least the room is decent, with sunlight streaming in. Hearing that, Julia sat up, cheerfully saying. That's true, it's different. Our castle is splendid, but it was built according to my mother's taste, so I don't care much for it. The maid arranged the items, thinking, Miss is really so innocent. Julia confidently said. In the East, I am the most beautiful. Perhaps here in the capital, I will be the same. I thought the palace would be full of stunning beauties, but it's not like that. She asked the maid. Why do palace maids have such a reputation for being capable and beautiful? The maid replied. Because they are skilled in court etiquette, have an elegant fashion sense, and are talented and educated. All of these factors set a relatively high standard. Julia looked confidently in the mirror. Well, it suits me, so I like it. She asked the maid. So, should I take my time now? The maid sighed and said wearily. I've tried to coax you as much as I could, but you've been lounging around for over an hour. Julia opened the door, and a voice called out. Are you coming out now? Susan looked at Julia and continued. You really prepared quickly. I thought you were getting ready for a ball. Julia was angry, but the maid quickly stopped her from speaking, laughing awkwardly. Haha. Sorry. Did you wait for us, miss? Vera asked. Is everyone ready? Susan and Julia were displeased and avoided looking at each other. Vera sighed inwardly, it's like day and night. I already foresee a difficult future ahead. Vera said. The palace is very busy right now, so I don't have the strength to supervise you too. The princess is also very busy. Julia curiously asked. Is something happening? Vera turned around and replied. The princess is reorganizing the entire inner court, so she's very busy. Things will settle down soon. At that time, you two will need to focus on learning your duties. A voice called out. What kind of work are you talking about? I've heard the princess barely has anything to do. People say maids only need to follow the princess with an umbrella and coat. What is this? It's not at all like the rumors. Julia thought to herself, I'll have to ask the princess when I meet her. Vera reported. Your Highness, I seek permission to enter. Her bright golden hair appeared, and Kaina smiled, responding, Finally, you've arrived. Julia's eyes lit up as she saw Kaina in her radiant attire. She cheerfully said. It's a pleasure to meet everyone. Welcome to the princess's palace. In her mind, Julia thought, compared to this girl, I'm just a country bumpkin. Susan and Julia bowed, greeting, Your Highness, the princess. Kaina happily said, Thank you for agreeing to become maids in the princess's palace during the busiest time for the Marquis's household. Julia responded, The palace is a place I've long admired. I'm very happy to be here. My work is handled by my brothers, so I'm not busy at all, no worries. Kaina nodded, That's fortunate. She then turned to Susan and asked. How is your father, General Lepau? If he can attend my coming-of-age ceremony, I would be very happy. Susan replied coldly, Yes, I'll send a letter to him. Vera stood to the side, thinking, Miss Julia's problem is that she overlooks the difference in status, while Miss Susan is too cold. It's like night and day compared to Miss Olivia. Among the maids, only Olivia is from the capital, so she is much more skilled in court etiquette. Kaina softly said, Vera, please guide them through the work in the inner court for me. Vera immediately responded, I will obey, Your Highness. Kaina unexpectedly thought, such a quick recovery. Vera cleared her throat and continued. The duties of the inner court are to assist the emperor and the royal family. You two will serve directly under the princess as senior maids of the princess's palace. Kaina smiled. Today is your first day, so you may rest and familiarize yourselves with the palace. The junior maids will explain your specific duties. Both replied in unison, We understand, Your Highness. Julia stepped out the door, feeling a sense of confusion. What is going on? She silently cried, thinking of the dreams she once had of life at the palace. I imagined a life full of luxury, wearing beautiful dresses, carrying an umbrella to shield from the sun, and attending tea parties. Now, even my dream of becoming the most beautiful woman in the capital feels so distant. Julia muttered in frustration, "What is this internal court service? Why do I have to do this job when there are already lower-ranked maids handling these things?" Suddenly, a voice interrupted her thoughts. "Excuse me, are you Lady Julia?" Julia startled and turned around, seeing a young girl smiling politely. "I'm Annie, a lower-ranked maid. I heard the rumors, but you truly are as beautiful and stunning as they say." Julia thought, "What is this? Why are so many people appearing all of a sudden?" She replied quietly, hello." Annie continued, "You must not have heard about your duties yet, right? Lady Julia's responsibility will be to manage the princess's prescriptions, food, and tea time." Julia froze. "What? I don't know how to cook, and I have no knowledge of medicine. How can I do this job? What about the other maids?" Annie gently explained, "Lady Vera takes care of all administrative and educational duties. Lady Susan manages items such as furniture, clothing, and jewelry. Lady Olivia handles the tea parties and guest receptions." Julia's eyes lit up immediately. Tea parties? Isn't that the heart of the high society in the capital? I want to do that job. But she soon became disappointed as she realized that the work she was given wasn't what she had hoped for. Julia thought to herself, external affairs require someone as beautiful as me. Olivia came from the Grace family, which held no significant power, so she should not be tied to this position. She sighed and asked, "Can this assignment be changed?" Annie's expression darkened as she firmly replied, "Absolutely not, as Her Highness the Princess personally appointed you." She added that if Julia wanted to change jobs, she would have to speak directly with the princess. Annie reassured Julia that she would have time to learn gradually and shouldn't worry too much. Julia felt disheartened and unwilling to listen. Even that girl named Susan had a lighter workload than she did. The princess had deliberately assigned her the most difficult and tedious tasks. She sighed. She truly doesn't understand how important this job is, Julia thought. It seems she doesn't value practical and objective things but only cares about appearances and showing off to others. Annie wondered, why would Her Highness the Princess choose a girl like her as a senior lady-in-waiting? A voice called out, "Miss Julia, you're in charge of food, drinks, and medicine?" The servants were surprised. Is the young lady of the Even family really taking on such a heavy responsibility? Julia felt frustrated. "Do they think I came to the royal palace to cook?" she snapped. "This is truly heartbreaking." Looking into the mirror, she said, "I deserve to be the perfect bride. From my family background to my beauty, everything is ideal. I thought that becoming the princess's lady-in-waiting would allow me to meet my dream man and have a wonderful romance. Especially, I wanted to have the chance to date Sir Kidray." The maid said, "If that's the case, His Highness the Prince is right here." Julia scoffed, "I'm not interested in someone younger than me." The maid argued, "He's only a year younger. What's the big deal? Besides, he's a prince." Julia thought for a moment. If he was Princess Kaina's younger brother. "Miss Julia, have you come to your senses yet? Your beauty is guaranteed." Julia snapped back to reality and muttered, "No, impossible. I still dislike younger men." She shouted to herself, "Only Sir Raphael is for me." But, the prince had already found out. As time passed after the ladies-in-waiting entered the palace, life continued as usual. Due to an incident in the kitchen, honest officials who had once been overlooked due to corruption were rediscovered. Kaina immediately reinstated them, rewarding and granting them appropriate rights. Praise for the princess started circulating in the palace, especially while Rajef was under house arrest for 5 days. Kaina pondered. Rajef was unusually silent. She had complete control over the palace affairs. A voice called out, "Princess, please have some water before continuing your work." She cheerfully replied, "Ah, thank you, Vera." She then teased, "Do you always enjoy working this much?" Vera responded, "Of course. Didn't Your Highness recognize my abilities?" Vera held out her hand, presenting a letter. "A letter from the Royal Academy, Your Highness." Kaina asked. Why would they send me a letter? After reading it, she scoffed. Insane. Building an entire structure just to ask me on a date? What is this guy thinking? Meanwhile, in another part of the palace, a letter was being read. My dearest Olivia, it's unfortunate that your engagement with the Kidray family fell through. You must be heartbroken. However, Olivia laughed upon reading it. Father, I never cared about this engagement in the first place, ha. Besides, I really enjoy palace life now. Suddenly, a knock came at the door. Lady Olivia, may we speak for a moment? She responded, Lady Vera, please come in. Vera entered, glowing yet exhausted, with dark circles under her eyes. She sighed, it's been a long time, hasn't it? I'm here on behalf of the princess with an important matter. Olivia watched as Vera drank water eagerly. She thought, she must be so busy that she looks even more exhausted than before. Even so, Vera's eyes still sparkled with vitality. Indeed, a person is most beautiful when they pour their heart into doing what they love. Olivia wondered, will I ever meet someone who recognizes my abilities like Vera has? She clenched her teacup tightly. Maybe Princess Kaina will be the first to discover my potential. Vera then spoke, this might be a bit sudden, but a distinguished guest of the princess will be visiting soon. She has decided that you must quickly learn proper etiquette and social skills, Miss Olivia. Olivia was shocked. Me? She couldn't understand why they would choose someone as insignificant as her for such an important lesson. It felt as though they were determined that she be the one to welcome this guest. Who exactly is this guest? Then Vera delivered a shocking announcement that made Olivia choke on her drink. Lord Rafalo will be visiting regarding matters of the Royal Academy. Olivia felt an overwhelming sense of pressure. I have to welcome Lord Kidray? Her mind raced back to her father's letter. She also remembered something Kaina had once told her. I believe in you, Miss Olivia. She had just thought that after hearing the news that the engagement had been called off, the princess had issued this order to dispel any awkwardness. Clenching her fists, she worried that this might lead to trouble later, making it impossible for her to avoid the situation. Then, Olivia said, this is Her Highness's order, so I will comply. But before that, I need to meet the princess. Meanwhile, Kaina had commanded the investigation team to visit the merchants today and eliminate the thugs who had assaulted the people. Those receiving the orders immediately responded, we obey, Your Highness. She then noticed someone approaching. It was Olivia. It seems you've heard everything from Vera and have come to see me because of it. Olivia bowed respectfully and said, I apologize for requesting an audience when you are so busy, Your Highness. Kaina replied, but with my poor social skills, I fear there may be issues when hosting you. Kaina smiled. How could that be? Someone as intelligent as you wouldn't let that happen. Even so, Olivia clenched her fists. She said, perhaps the princess already knows, but my engagement with Sir Kir has been annulled. Kaina broke into a slight sweat. Olivia was truly straightforward. She stood up, thinking that this situation was nothing less than a love battle, making it unpredictable. But this wasn't something that could be brushed aside so easily. All right, let's settle this once and for all, she said. The moment you became my lady-in-waiting, that engagement was bound to be cancelled. And you don't regret it, do you? Olivia nodded. Kaina stepped closer and spoke gently, I know what you're worried about, Olivia. It was because I was momentarily infatuated with young Lord Kidray, blinded by jealousy, that I made you suffer. Hearing this, Olivia was slightly taken aback. The princess continued, I should have apologized for my rudeness sooner. Then, to Olivia's shock, the princess lowered her head in apology. I'm sorry, Olivia. Olivia was stunned. Your Highness. She quickly grasped Kaina's hands and said, please don't do this. This apology is too much for me. I truly don't hold any resentment. Kaina chuckled. Of course, that's exactly what you would say. Before her rebirth, since Olivia was the heroine and supported by the Kidray family, Kaina had been extremely jealous. Every time they met, she had bullied Olivia. In the end, her own foolishness led her into Rejeff's trap, causing her to commit the terrible crime of secretly poisoning Olivia. But Olivia had been revived through magic. When she learned that she had simply been a pawn in Rejeff's scheme, she did not resent Kaina but pitied her instead. You will never know these things, Olivia. That is why you deserve to be the heroine of this novel. Suddenly, Kaina beamed radiantly and declared, I will marry someone even more outstanding. So, let's put the matter of Sir Kidray to rest here. Olivia was startled. Huh. She was surprised that the princess intended to marry someone else. But then, Olivia burst into laughter. Kaina continued, Now, can you confidently entertain the guest for me? Olivia chuckled, I will receive him properly and ensure that your highness is not embarrassed. She felt relieved. You were just joking, weren't you? Another man? Oh, your highness, you're too much. The next day, Olivia still didn't know much about the man she was about to meet. At first glance, he was a nobleman with jet black hair and red eyes. He was the heir of the family that had once helped hers, and he was also the man who had annulled their engagement that very day. Olivia thought to herself, according to her highness, this man likes strong black tea. In the garden, as the tea was served, Olivia asked, Does the tea suit your taste, sir? Rafalo took a sip and nodded. Yes, it's very good. This is the strong black tea made from the leaves I ordered previously. He pondered, there's no way Lady Olivia would have known my preference for this tea. Clearly, the princess told her. Golden brown hair, gentle green eyes, the familiar face he had only seen in portraits when discussing the engagement. For Olivia to personally greet him, this was undoubtedly Kaina's idea. Were the words you spoke to me sincere? He recalled Kaina once saying, I hope you and Lady Olivia will end up together. It seemed she wanted to treat him well, yet at the same time, she acted as if she didn't care. I can never guess what you're thinking, Princess Kaina. Olivia then said, Her Highness will be slightly delayed, so I ask for your patience. Rafalo responded, I understand. She added, due to overseeing the interrogation of criminals related to the inner palace, the princess has been very busy. Rafalo decisively responded, Is that so? Olivia continued, I heard that you donated a new building to the Royal Academy. Back then, I also received help from the Duke's family. Time flies so fast. Rafalo simply replied, That's right. Although Olivia tried to keep the conversation going, Rafalo only responded with brief sentences, making the tea party atmosphere rather quiet. She thought, if a gentleman's standard is to avoid unnecessary talk with women, then this man is the perfect gentleman. However, rumors of his courteous nature were widespread. Looking at him now, Olivia thought coldly, if this is the standard of a gentleman, then it's truly pathetic. His curt responses were unbearable. She suddenly slammed her hand on the table. It seems that you don't enjoy being in the company of someone who was almost your fiancé, do you? At the same time, Olivia added, if you find my presence inconvenient, I can call another attendant to serve you. It was only then that Rafalo seemed to realize something. He quickly responded, That's not the case. I was being impolite. But from the start, he had been silent. I already knew this man didn't have a favorable impression of me. It wasn't that he was overly arrogant, but Olivia still felt uneasy. She sighed. Why did Her Highness make me meet such a cold man? Just then, someone announced, The princess has arrived. Kaina entered, dressed elegantly in a luxurious gown with a noble rose-colored hue. She smiled and said, I'm late, aren't I? Olivia respectfully bowed. Your Highness has arrived, she said with relief. Kaina folded her arms and glanced around, noticing the food that had already been served. The moment Rafalo saw her, he immediately stood up, obedient as a puppy, almost as if he had been waiting for her.